one fine day, one of the kids said, "Didi, मुसलमानों को तो पाकिस्तान चले जाना चाहिए." And at that point of time, my heart broke, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, if I'm not able to create shift in the mindset. So I pinged somebody from Teach for Pakistan, and I said, "Hey, how are you?" And would really like to connect. And we arranged a three call series for the students, wherein our students would just get to interact with each other. And they spoke about Shah Rukh Khan and Bollywood movies. They sang songs, and by the end of those three sessions, they were like, "दीदी, ये तो हमारी तरह ही है, ये तो कपड़े भी हमारी तरह पहनते हैं, ये तो बात भी हमारी तरह करते हैं."
Hi everyone, welcome to the Right Now Show. Hope you all are doing well and safe. The Right Now Show is all about spreading inspiring ideas. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." On that very note, we have a wonderful and an inspiring guest today on the Right Now Show. So give it up for Abhinav. Do the introduction honors.
Thanks for that intro, Abhi. Today we have an amazing guest amongst us, and she is Sakshi Sharma. I came to know Sakshi last year through one of our mutual friends, and it was actually we bonded pretty fast. And one of the reasons that we bonded was that she was working in education sector, and she still is, and I had worked for a while in education sector, and that was one of our major bonding points. So much to discuss, and so I had so much to learn from her also. So that said, Sakshi Sharma was a fellow at Teach for India for last couple of years. She has started several initiatives, one of which is called Beyond Boundaries, which aims at connecting children of the world. How? We'll know that shortly. And she's an aspiring educationist, and she stands especially for women's education in this country and bringing education equity. And without any further ado, I call upon Sakshi to take us through her journey. Sakshi Sharma, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abhinav and Abhinandan, for having me here and for giving me this opportunity to talk to you guys, and through that, talk to your great audience. Talking about my journey, as Abhinav rightly said, one of our mutual friend, she after our graduation, she started a fellowship at Sri Sathya Sai Vidya Vahini program, wherein she used to teach in a school in a very small village near Yamunanagar in Dadwa. And I happened to visit her, and when I went there and I saw the kind of work she's doing and the kind of change she's bringing in the lives of the students, I was so inspired by her work. And with that, I always thought ki maybe I would like to do my bit in this great mission of ours to bring educational equity in India. Like, after my post graduation, I happened to know about Teach for India. Then, I spoke to a few fellows, and then I thought that this is my calling. And I joined Teach for India as a fellow and started teaching 8th and ninth grade girls in a government school in New Delhi. And that is how my journey started. I learned with them. We both my girls and like all my girls, and I explored education and what it means to us together. So yeah, that is pretty much it. And talking a bit about how we started Beyond Boundaries. So I was teaching in New Delhi, and in year 2019 December-ish, there were a lot of things that were happening in here with respect to CAA and NRC protests. And since my school is very close to Jamia, our school was closed for 2 3 days. There was learning loss, and the day we came back, I really thought that we should talk about it. and like we used to have these churcha spaces, and we spoke about what is happening in CAA, what is happening in NRC, what is happening in the country, and I realized that the kind of community my girls come from, they haven't explored much. They haven't seen the world outside, and I wanted to create that access and exposure for them. And like in my undergraduation days, we used to have this subject called unity of religion, and because I was feeling that there is a solid divide in the class, because of which they are not able to communicate well, they are not able to collaborate. So we started doing these unity of religion classes, wherein we talk about various religions, and like every group will talk about one religion, no matter from where they are and what they are doing. And like it was working, but I could see that, like it's just on paper and nothing much is happening. And one fine day, one of the kids said, दीदी मुसलमानों को तो पाकिस्तान चले जाना चाहिए. And at that point of time my heart broke, and I was like what am I doing? Like if I'm not able to create shift in the mindset, if the kids are still thinking like this, why am I here? And like I started searching and thinking about what can be done, and like from where
And
I can create that access.
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. I mean, like, if you look at that bias and the mindset, it begins actually at kind of that age, right? And it's
Yeah.
uh,
And it is because like everybody around is thinking like that. They haven't been to other places, they haven't seen other people, so how will they know how they are, right? So
true.
like that, because it was like going on in my head that we need to do something, and like something has to be done, exactly what I don't know. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so I pinged somebody from Teach for Pakistan, and I said, hey, how are you, and would really like to connect. And then we both spoke about education in our countries and how similar it is, and how we are affected by the education system of the colonial era. And we arranged a three call series for the students, wherein our students would just get to interact with each other. We do not have a lesson plan, we do not have anything. They are just going to sit in front of the laptop, just see how those kids are, just talk to them. And in the first session, they were like, okay, they just look like us. And they spoke about Shah Rukh Khan and Bollywood movies. They sang songs. And by the end of those 3 sessions, they were like, दीदी ये तो हमारी तरह ही है, ये तो कपड़े भी हमारी तरह पहनते हैं, ये तो बात भी हमारी तरह करते हैं. And I could see that their mindset is changing. I could see that they were questioning themselves, and that is the whole point of education, right? To be able to think for yourself and not be influenced by others. So I think when they saw that how similar the two countries are, they started believing that, together we can create change in the world, and not just in our community, not just in Delhi, not just in India, but in the world. And that was the seed for Beyond Boundaries. And like next year we piloted the first global peace building fellowship, wherein students from 8 different countries, they came together. They worked on sustainable development goals, and we were thinking how we can do it, and like what kind of curriculum we should have. So like we did it using filmmaking, we did it using collaborative research work. The students collaborated and made a rap song together, and they created all this magic all by themselves. And yeah, I'm really proud of what they have achieved and what they have done.
Yeah. So Sakshi, I think the overall underlying current that I can sense from what you're speaking is the 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 important value of humankind, right? So at the end of the day, we are all humans, right? So countries are something that is a geographical division, right? And obviously we are brought up in different cultures, but the underlying current is humankind. So my just understanding or my question to you is that since you've brought people together from close around 8 countries, right? What are the challenges that you face? Because obviously we are restricted in terms of geographical boundaries and how we can really meet people, but to interact with them, to kind of how do you sense that okay, they are at your frequency, they vibe at your frequency, and then all of them are on the same plane that you are? So how did you bring about that change?
I would say that it is not an easy task because your culture is very different, your accents are very different, and the kids like the kids I was teaching come from a very low socioeconomic background, and like it was very difficult for them to even sometimes understand what the person from maybe Ghana is saying. And how we do it, we just do it, and then like with experience and with the they have been speaking to them for like 3-4 weeks, and in the first week they'll not be able to understand what the other person is saying, and I'll have to intervene, and I'll have to translate it probably like in Indian English, and in the second week it will become better, in third week they will become friends. So yeah, that is one of the challenge, the accent of students, like it depends on from where they all are coming, and the students I was connecting were not from a background where they had the access and exposure. So that was one aspect. The second would be the globe is a huge place, and it is very difficult to find the right golden time wherein everybody it is a normal time for everybody. So if a kid is in, let's say, Vancouver, and the other kid is in Japan, how am I going to find a time wherein they both can it's the normal time for both of them and not like one at night? So that was something which we did by blocking east like blocking the time. For example, like we made sure that we have that golden hour, and we take students from that particular time zone only, and like probably in future if we have like 2 cohorts or 3 cohorts, we can have students from like extreme ends of the world, but right now we make sure that the kids are only from this golden zone of the world wherein we can
Why,
connect on
why
the
don't
same.
why don't corporates actually implement better timings? Because I almost see all the time Indians compromising, and US people being on their own time. US people and different abroad people. I don't understand why corporates don't do it. Anyway.
Like they should, because if you are working in your normal time, it becomes very easy for them to work, because working for kids, working like chatting with somebody at 3 a.m. about sustainable development goals will not make any sense.
Yeah.
So now that you said that sustainable development goals, which are like I think 70, there are 17 of them, right? Sustainable development goals. So what do like kids talk? Like how do kids know about sustainable development, and like do you simplify topics for them and kind of ask them to interact? Like
So
what do they exactly
actually,
talk?
so sustainable development goals are goals for year 2030, and people who are in schools right now, they will be adults by then, and if we want to achieve those goals, it is important for us to collaborate with these kids. These kids should know that what the world is going towards, what the world wants, and that is why sustainable development goals are something which uh, uh, we make sure that our kids understand well. We have collaborated with a few organizations who make sustainable development goals easy for the students, and they provide us with the curriculum, they provide us with the lesson plans, and then we give it to the mentors. So mentors are basically people who guide a group of 5 people from our cohort of the Global Peace Building Fellowship. So yeah, so that is how they know what sustainable development goals are, and that is how they feel connected to what they are doing.
Yeah. So I think Sakshi, something that we're talking about, which is sustainable development. So we've not been brought up. I mean, our curriculums as such, when we were studying, didn't really focus on sustainable development, right? So I mean, it was not a topic that was majorly discussed, right? And that gets me to the idea that uh, the current curriculum or the education system is more in terms of a bookish culture, wherein you're having that's something that everyone knows. So it's not new. It's been widely discussed, right? But then there's this new form of education where you're forced or you're encouraged to think, right? And then when you think, that kind of ties in with the sustainable development, right? So when you suddenly think that, look, education is all about knowledge, right? And then we have a world today, we have to pass it on to a better in a better, I mean, in a better form to the next generation, right? So how do you bring about the overall shift in terms of the ratta mar education, wherein we are just kind of mugging, to encouraging the students to think? Because obviously, as students are students, at the end of the day, they sitting here in hindsight, we know that, okay, look, we should have probably thought, but students at the end of the day are just small kids, right? So how do you bring about that shift in terms of a thinking culture? So yeah, that's
Yeah.
something I wanted to know.
Yeah, so working in a government system where everybody is talking about तुम्हारे कितने number आए, what grade have you got, it was difficult to change that mindset. And like how we did it in the class, we, like whenever we are teaching, we do not teach like, today we are going to learn about the oceans of the world. We speak it in a way that the kids are really interested as to why I should know that the world has got these many oceans and all, like what are the shapes of these oceans, how is it affecting you. And if we are talking about democracy, how is democracy affecting you, and can we create a democracy in this in this very classroom? Can we create one person who is responsible for, let's say, that nobody is doing cheating in the exams, and like everybody has got all the stationery? Can we make the democratic system in the classroom? So it all depends on the kind of lesson plans you create in the classroom. B, so like according to me, what is important, what should have been done in school is, we should teach students how to learn and not what to learn. We should teach students how to think and not exactly what to think. And our textbooks have been doing this, have been teaching us what to think and not how to think. And like we have created a lot of I would say models wherein students can make a mind map wherein they can write that, I think this should be done and this is why I think this. And two people can disagree, two students can disagree on their thought process and on even the end result, and that is okay. And it all depends on the teacher and the kind of system we are creating. And I think today both teaching and learning is changing at a drastic pace. We were teaching like how we taught 50 years back. The textbooks were same, everything was same. And I think today COVID did one good thing. We are thinking that why we are teaching kids like we were teaching 50 years back. Why they have to write an exam when they probably the kid is good with making a video? Why can't he or she just sit in front of the camera, make a video about it? Why
Why not? Yeah.
the Yeah, and why not he or she can start a project in the community? Why does the kid has to write it in the exam that this is what I feel? Why does the kid have to write an essay about it? Probably that is not something he or she is good at. Probably he or she is more creative than expressive in terms of writing in words. So yeah, that is something which we did it in the classroom. Kids wrote a rap about news that was coming. We used things like Flipgrid, wherein they will just use video messages to explain whatever they feel. So yeah, like a lot of things are changing, but at the same time, because there is so much of inequity in India, these things are not like in every school. These things are not going to the rural kids. So that is something which we need to think about, how we are going to do that. Because skill development is the main essence, right? So if we are creating skills for few kids, why not redesign according to the needs of the kids in the rural area, or kids from lower socioeconomic background? Why not, when kids from these high end society are learning about coding and how to think, why not kids from other backgrounds?
That's actually the point that I was coming to, like there is, all this Vedantu, Baiju, and so many online ed tech platforms that are coming in and trying to make learning as fun as possible. But there is still a huge gap when it comes to, children, say, rural areas or even urban areas. Actually, in fact, they say that, urban poverty is uh, way worse than rural poverty, because obviously the cost of living, etc., is way high in a city. But
Yeah.
there is like a huge there's like a huge gap, and there's a huge inequity. So the other thing that I wanted to touch upon was that, uh, not just this kind of rural urban gap, socioeconomic, but also gender based. There is so much gap, right? So what are your views on that?
Yeah, so when I started teaching in a girls' school, I was like, yeah, this is really fun, and all these girls, like, I'm really passionate about creating equality in the world, and I always felt that, why there are certain things which only a girl is supposed to do. Why, if both, like in a normal low middle class household, if a girl and a boy are sitting together eating food, the girl is supposed to get up, get a glass of water for her brother. Why is it like that? And that is something which I wanted to change in the, like, change through, like, teaching and education and in the classroom. And we used to speak a lot about, what is happening in our households, and like, how we are responsible for our younger siblings, our brothers, and and like, since I was teaching teenagers, it became a problem when some of the girls parents would tell that iski to 2 saal mein shaadi kar denge. And it once actually happened, one of my student, because it was lockdown, it was very difficult for me to communicate very well, because they don't have, like, cell phones, sometimes they don't have network, they have gone to the village. And I got a call one day that दीदी, मम्मी और पापा कह रहे हैं कि स्कूल से नाम कटाना होगा, मेरे को बता दो कि प्रोसेस क्या है. And I said, like, why are you, like, shifting to some other place? Are you will you be studying in your village? And she said, नहीं दीदी, वो मेरी शादी करवा रहे हैं. And I was like, what? And because there was financial pressure on the parents, so parents also want good things for the kids, whether it is girl or it is boy, but they feel that if the girl is married, she will be happy. They do not dream big enough that probably she can become prime minister of India, or she can become something really good and take them out of the poverty. And we just need to help them to think big, that your girl is doing good. If you keep her in school, she will take you out of the poverty, she will take her brothers out of the poverty. And like, to tell you one story, so there is one student, okay, her name is Jyoti. She's a really good poet, and when she was in the classroom, she was she used to go to all these slam poetries, and she scored really well. Then she got full scholarship from DPS school, and when she went to DPS, her life changed. Now she's studying in Ashoka University. She's doing her bachelor's in economics honors, and soon she will be leaving. Like, she's preparing for her education abroad. And when I see her parents and how her parents' idea of what a girl is supposed to do has changed, and this has not changed because of one fellow, this has changed because of multiple fellows, multiple people coming in their lives, and helping them to dream big enough, helping them to think big enough that, she is going to take them out of poverty. And, like, if you give her wings, she's going to fly, and she's going to make your lives also happy, she's going to be happy as well. So yeah, like, I have witnessed a few stories like that.
Yeah, that's truly inspiring. So I think something that's a question, right, and more probably an observation as an offshoot of this whole discussion is that when we're talking about girl children and their education, right, they spend an X amount of time in school, but then the major amount of time that they spend is at their home. And then obviously there's an ecosystem wherein you have phones, you have your parents at home, you have your friends at, outside the school. So how do you kind of bridge that gap in terms of the parents at home, right? Or the friends? So is it that you communicate with the parents too, or else the overall focus is on the children, the girl children, and then kind of letting her know that it is her responsibility to kind of educate other people? Or do you kind of widen the reach that you have and then also speak to other people who are in her ecosystem, right? So how do you do that?
So I think school, ecosystem, community, all these things are very related to each other. We cannot differentiate between what is school and what is community. So what we do is we do community visits, wherein we go to these homes and we mingle with the family. When I remember when we were under our training, we spent 2 days in one of the students' household, and we knew what happens there, where namak is, where chini is. We cooked with them, and that is how you connect with people. And once you connect with people, they start accepting you, they start respecting you, they start listening to you, and listening is the most important thing in this. I'd like to tell you a story about it. So there is a school in New Delhi wherein the school was closed, and the principal was not allowing the fellows to work in the school. So what the fellows did is they rented a place in the community. They started calling the students after the school, and not only students but the mothers of the students as well. And they were not teaching there, they were just talking to people. They were just talking, और बताओ क्या चल रहा है घर पे, आपको क्या अच्छा लगता है. And then the fellows realized that, if you invest mothers in the education of the students, magic happens. And she realized that the mothers are really interested in working in increasing the income of the family, but because there are XYZ problems, they are not able to do it. She also realized that they all are very good at stitching. They all have got these swing machines, and they started an initiative called Khwab, wherein the mothers of the students, they would come, they'll stitch clothes, they'll stitch diaries and all these interesting little things. And then the fellow started like this whole project Khwab, wherein she'd sell all these things, and the money will go to the mothers. Now the mothers were doing this, the students were studying and just exploring how balance sheet works. Ninth grade students is learning what profits are, what losses are, and how much money we are getting in. So all this is actually creating like a lot of giving a lot of access and exposure to them, and it is eventually creating skill not only for the students but also for their mothers. And like initially it would happen that if the fellow is wearing probably jeans, they'll think jeans पहन के आई हैं, and after that they'll become very normal with that. They'll start wearing jeans, and like for most of us it's be like wearing jeans is not a big deal, but for them it is, because it is symbolizing their freedom. And so yeah, there are it's just that you need to invest in people, you just need to talk to them.
I think that's like really important. Like there are so many stakeholders involved when you're trying to build a child's education, and education is a very long-term process, like you said earlier, right? That parents at times they don't have a choice. They look for a short-term gain. For example, a girl is there, and there's the whole thing of getting her married, and the whole dowry system that prevails in India even now.
Yeah.
That's like a short-term financial out for them, but for them to understand that education is something that will it'll take a long time obviously, but it'll take them out forever from that problem.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult thing. And there were some there are really stereotypical kind of stories that you hear, that for example, a kid who is studying in a school, He goes back home, uh, very 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 humble family, and father gets drunk and beats mom and things like that. And I thought these cannot be like, yeah, there will be cases like this, but this is way too stereotypical. And I was actually shocked to see when I worked 1 year as a fellow in Haryana. So I realized that these things are like very much true. Parents getting invested in children's education is the next level stuff. Like that's like the pinnacle of education, where like your parents are learning with you, they are like being your friend and encouraging you. But this was a very sad situation where like parents don't have control on their lives itself, and they don't have a way out. So that was like a really difficult ground reality to face. And I think the whole initiative of involving mothers is like very amazing. Like,
Yeah, because like I have seen the change it can create. Every parent wants good things for the child, and it's just that they do not know what to do and how to do it, and like they don't know if it is even possible for them. So you just need to change that. You just need to help them see that it can happen.